Hi everyone, it's Mr. Barden here. This video is hopefully going to be a little on the shorter side compared to the ones I've been doing in this little mini series. And we're going to be coming back to the Paint app that we've been looking at for the past few videos, if you've been following all of those as they've come out. And this will be the final part for this particular app. And this will be adding some interactive sound processing to the program. If you have not seen the previous two parts of this video where we build just the general Paint app and then add sounds into it, definitely go check those out. Just because we build off of those. The sketch for this will be in the description of this video, but it will just be the completed sketch. So if you want to build your own version of this, go check out those previous videos and follow along to build that and customize it however you might want to do. So that'll be there. We'll also be looking at some of the tone documentation and this textbook page right here from the textbook for the course I teach on this, and I'll have links to all that stuff in the description below. But before we start talking about all that, I just want to say if you are liking the video so far, and if you learned something over the course of it, definitely like, comment, subscribe, all the the YouTube stuff. The algorithms like it when I mention that kind of thing. So let's look at some stuff and actually talk a little bit about it before we hop into the code. So if you've been following along in the videos or you're in my class, at this point, we've gone through effectively the whole sound unit. There's a handful of other stuff in this kind of last audio section. A lot of it, though, is well, I'll say extra. I don't personally go too much into it, and I kind of save some of this more advanced stuff for the dual enrollment or the college people taking this class. But basically, if you wanted to go through it in the textbook, it's taking those sequences and using it to control bigger things, so you can change between a lot more stuff at once, which is very useful. But for the sake of what I'm teaching in the class and what we do later on, utilizing some of these scheduling of signals is a little bit more useful for what we do. So I tend to focus on this one, and then we hop into the last part by putting all of this into games. And in fact, that's what we're doing right now in these videos, are going over this very last chapter, chapter 9, right here. We're adding the sound events to Bug Squish. I mean, there you go. Not Bug Squish, Paint app. You can do Bug Squish as well if you want to. It's useful. There's some new features in the P5 Play library that can sometimes make the app a little bit buggy, and I need to kind of revise that. But Paint app is a solid choice for it works. After this, we'll gotta be focusing on the Arduino units. So some of the videos may come out a little less frequently just because they take a lot longer to make, because that will be building stuff and swapping between cameras, and it's a lot of things. But just so you know what to expect going forward. All right, enough of the logistic crap out of the way. Let's actually look at the stuff. So up until this point, we've been setting different values of certain things, certain effects, and controlling them and changing them over time. We've done several assignments where we have if I go find one, I think it was this one. Yeah, this one right here, where we have different sliders that can control different parameters of effects. So in this particular assignment, I have my students choose 8 different sounds and 4 effects, and basically have them play back the sound effect by clicking the button and changing the processing by changing the sliders. So if I pick a random one, I think this is a longer sound. And that was that as normal. I'll turn the volume down just a hair, so that way it's not, going nuts in the speakers after all the editing process. But let's play that again and then start changing around the sliders. So we'll change the sliders. That one may not be working, actually. I'll have to look at this sketch again. Yeah, I'm not noticing much of a difference. I think this sketch might be broken. We'll have to look into that. Um, Not in this video. So yeah, I found something out while trying to do something else completely. So we'll look at this sketch, but you get the idea of we can use the slider to control different parameters. Cool. That's the main goal. However, doing that manually while also playing a game isn't something we really do, like, ever. I mean, yeah, we kind of do some of that stuff, but when you're playing the game, you want to play the game. You don't want to control manually all of the different effect parameters that are changing the sound environment. There are some games where that might be more of a feature, but generally speaking, in my experience, I don't really. I don't think, okay, now my health is low, let's turn up this effect and do that. It's whatever. But I've got listed right here several different useful methods in the in the Tone JS library. And a lot of this kind of stuff, if you scroll all the way down, where was that? I think we were talking about it in uh, it's attached to certain things. So let's just look at a synthesizer. I wasn't sure if in this newest version it had like a separate category for it, but let's just look at an effect. Let's look at the pitch shift. It's not the pitch shift. Where did this live? This lives somewhere unintuitive. So I gotta find a tone.event. No, it's not there. It's in one of these that you wouldn't necessarily think. Not time. Not transport time. Start. It's in one of these, and I don't remember where it lies. So, this is what I get for not super planning a lot of this in advance, but that's okay. I thought it was part of tone.event, but I guess I was wrong. Signals. We'll look in the signal section. Under signal. There we are. They're hiding under signal, which I suppose makes sense as it's called scheduling signals. But these are a bunch of methods for setting and ramping different values. So this will be applied to any kind of signal source that you've got, and you can kind of define the signal. Well, it'll tell you in the tone thing reference here. So let's just now pull back up pitch shift. I'll do it in another tab down here. And if we scroll down a ways, I know for a fact wet is one, but it'll say signal right there. And sometimes it may say other things, but usually they're pretty good about saying signals. If it's a parameter or a signal, pretty much anything where you need to include the dot value little parameter there in order to set, we can have those values either be automatically set on command when something happens, or we can have it ramp and do things in addition just to setting those values. So we're going to play around with that a little bit in this sketch. This is a lot more useful in more of a game setting where you have a lot more states that the game can be in. This app, not a ton of states. It does its thing, but there's not a whole lot we can do it. So we're going to play around with some things. And if I was going to make this app to release, out to the public or sell money from, or, sell for money or something like that, ignoring any other legal issues, these may not be the most intuitive choices that you could make. But let's just hop into it. So what we're going to do is start by adding some audio effects. And I like to make all of these in the same spot up here as my tone, everything else. Just do it all in preload. Don't necessarily have to do it in preload, but I like to do it there. So we're going to make some effects. So let's add a reverb, a filter, and a delay. Just tidy that up a little bit. There we go. This is not there. This should be this one. There we go. All right. So we are defining these three effects globally. You can have multiple or different effects if you want. It doesn't really matter. I'm just showing these off. So I'm just going to define them real quick. Rev is a new tone dot reverb. Delay is a new tone dot feedback delay. And what did I say? Shifter? No, it was a filter. Filt is a new tone dot. Let's look at the filters just to see what we've got. Auto filter, auto painter, biquad filter. Let's just say tone dot filter, delay time, resonance. I'm looking at different things so we can filter out sound frequencies. I guess we'll just go with filter. Ooh, feedback comb filter. That could be fun. Let's try feedback comb filter. We'll try new things. So we need delay time and resonance. So feedback comb filter. It's a new, like so. Boom. All right, we've made them. Let's connect them all up. So there's different ways that we can do this. I'm just thinking of how I want to do it in this video. So I think what we'll do for this one is I'll show you something a little bit new, at least in terms of what I usually show the students. So there's different ways that we can combine all of this. We could say multiplayer dot chain. Actually, I'll start with connect. And we could just connect it to one thing at a time. That's fine. I could connect it to the reverb. And there we go. We could say dot chain. And you can list out several things and you'll connect each thing to the next in the list. So we could be like reverb, delay, if just to use that same order. And it would connect all the stuff. That's cool. But what I'm going to do is dot fan. And fan will connect to all the things that we tell it to here, but it will tell it to connect to them, what we call in parallel. So we'll go from the multiplayer to all three of these separately. All right, so we're not doing them, in order and chaining them. We're going from one thing to these three different things here, in order to do all the stuff separately. So we're going to fan it out. So we'll do that, and we'll say we'll connect it to the rev, the delay, and the filter. This way, again, we can affect one effect without that controlling the others. And that just gives a little more options. So actually, we'll just say .fan, copy that, and we'll just say it here. And then we will move this above the multiplayer inside the function, so that way it doesn't get angry. Why is it? Oop, one too many. There we go. All right, so because if we tried to connect it before we made them, it wouldn't really work. And then for all these, we can just say .to nation, .to destination, so that way all of them are just going to the speakers. You can route your audio however you want for your project. We can get a bunch of different results, different sounds. It depends just on what you're looking for. But I'm trying to show a variety of things here. So we've got that. Let me just check these to make sure we don't need any default values. So we got the delay time and the resonance, but they're optional. Let's go ahead and give it something. So a time, let's just say we measure time here in seconds. Yeah, in seconds. So let's say, not there. When we were making these, let's say 0.5, 0.5, why not? Let's look at a feedback delay and reverb. This one has us having the delay time and feedback. We'll set it for the same one. Just to start with. And then tone.reverb, the decay time in seconds. And let's just set it at 2. Or let's hit the button I say I hit when I hit it, 2. So we've got that there. We can save that. And let's just play around with stuff. Try different things. So, So we have these 3 effects that we can control. Let's control what different parameters we have. So we can do a bunch of different things. Let's do a lot of it in draw because we'll need to have it updated in real time. So we'll keep checking. So I'll go to the end of my draw function right here. So just above the last brace. And we'll start playing around with things. So let's, for now, let's map some stuff to the mouse position. It can be kind of fun. So let's say if we're painting, and as we move the mouse around, we'll control that filter. So actually we could stick this in the paint function instead. So instead of drawing a line and only doing that, we can say, let's control the filter. Filter dot resonance. And we'll check that out just to make sure resonance is a parameter. Cool. Filter dot resonance dot value equals, and this is important right here. We have to check and see what the values the effect is looking for and make sure that we give it that appropriate value. So when it says a normal range, that is a value of 0 to 1. So the easiest way I've found to do this is when we're assigning it, if we're not using a slider or something that's generating these values, we can pull up the map function. And what this will do is this takes 5 arguments in order to work. The first is a value that we're going to scale. Let's say mouse X. And then the range that it normally has. So that would be what, between 0 and width, and then a new range, which because we have a 0 to 1 ratio, or range, will be between 0 and 1. And what this will do is that we'll scale the value we give it within the new range, the old range, and then output that same scaled position in the new range. So if we're at exactly halfway between 0 and the width, then it will give us a value exactly halfway in between the second one, which in this case would just be 0 and 1. We'll see that shortly. Let's play around with mouse Y as well, just for some fun effects. Let's adjust the reverb time. Yeah, the decay in seconds. So we could actually copy almost exactly this line, and we'll paste it there. So right now we're just assigning values. So this would be rev dot decay dot value. Actually, that's just rev dot decay. So we can just say rev dot decay because it's not a signal. I'll do between mouse Y and height because Y is vertical. And we should now start seeing some different effects. So let's just tidy that up and play around a little bit, see what we've got. So something didn't like that, and that's because I can't spell. We're gonna run that. For the sake of this video, I'm going to both stop that and whenever we have sequence 1.start, we're just gonna not play that. Where do we have? There we are, multi. We're just gonna stop that background music for now. Okay, that's not the right one. Where did it go? I need to find... Ah, here it is. We're gonna stop that because that's gonna be annoying. So now as we play, there's an effect. If it's way over here, we've got some interesting sounds effects going on as we move it down. Gets a lot more reverby. Compared to up here. There's some other stuff happening that's a little interesting, but we can play around with that. So we've got those, but I want to specifically schedule some events. This one just happens to be a lot, a lot more fun to just apply things to, but we're gonna ramp to some values instead. So how do we want to do this? Let's go to right here where we are, playing, triggering the sounds, and playing those. So what we can do is have the effects trigger, differently when we play things. So let's have all the effects reset whenever we click on the eraser. It could be something. So we could say here, to do rev dot decay dot ramp 2. Let me just double check I've got this. Yeah, ramp 2. Let's make these let's just do ramp 2 because that's the most straightforward and most user friendly. So we just say give it a value and how long it takes to get there. This one will use a little bit of logic in the code to decide whether it's a linear or exponential ramp. If you want to fine tune that and specify whether it's we're moving in a straight line or exponentially to the results, that's up to you. But I'm just going to use ramp 2. And we'll say we'll ramp to 0.5 over 1 second. And we're just going to call this a few times. One for each effect that we've changed. Filter dot... Where'd it go? Filter dot resonance dot value. I think I just copied that part. Nope, I copied the whole thing. Yay, duplicates. Filter.resonance.value.ramp 2. And we start that at, by default, 0.5. So that's there. So this should actually be rev.decay ramp to 2. Let me just make sure I've got that range set up. Yeah, it's just, doesn't look like this, it's just the amount of time. So when I map this down below, I probably should map that a little bit better. Rev.decay, mouse Y, yeah, between 0 and 5, let's say. There we go. So I just mapped that to a bad range. So now I'll set that there, and then the delay we haven't really touched with. So let's look at delay time, and those are both 0.5. So the delay dot delay time dot value dot ramp to 0.5 over 1 second. This will only happen when we click the erase, not when we click the other one. So let's just do that. Maybe. What did it not like there? So it didn't like the decay because it's not a thing we can ramp. All right, that's fine. Am I missing anything else that we could play with? Not really. So we'll just say rev.decay equals 0.5. That's not a thing we can ramp, apparently. All right, so that's there. We can just set this, and we can have this ramp slowly or quickly. So maybe when we release the mouse, in addition to stopping it, maybe we really ramp up or down something. Let's play with the delay because we haven't really done that yet. So we'll ramp that decay, but instead of that, we will double check the value. We'll play with the feedback. So delay dot feedback, I think, and we'll just double check that feedback. Yep. Okay. Cool. That will work. That value dot ramp to, and it's a normal range. So we'll ramp it way up to 0.9 over 3 seconds. Why not? Whenever we stop. It did not like that. Why didn't it like that? Feedback. Called it Dell. Why didn't you like my feedback? Let's see. Okay, apparently it didn't want the value in that one. But whatever. Okay, so we got a lot of that happening right there. Let's also play with that delay time now. And we'll just, again, play around with different things. If multiplayer... we'll just do this every time we click the mouse. We'll say, we'll ramp that delay time to whatever. We'll say, let mapped mouse equal map mouse x, and we'll just call this m mouse x. Map mouse x, and we'll put this between 0 width 0 and 1, same thing. There's copy, paste, y, height. I realized I said earlier we should do this, a lot of this in the draw function. We actually aren't, which is just kind of making this kind of funny. In the in a game state, you would probably want to do that. But what I'm doing here, I called it m mouse y, comma, over 3 seconds. What I'm doing here is basically every time we click the mouse, we're just going to map the value of the mouse locations. That way we don't have to type map a whole bunch of times. What this will do is when we click it, it will ramp up that delay time value to be that range. And delay time is just a time. That doesn't look like there's a limit. Yeah, so we can actually say between I pick 5 as a default for my time with no limit, 5 seconds. Having a wider range will make for a much more drastic change. So if we click over here, why didn't you like that? Really? They change what we need value for and not tell me? Okay, why aren't you working now? That, that doesn't tell me anything. I mean, it does tell me stuff, but put that back because that was working before. Must be within range. But it didn't tell me it had to be within a range, so fine. We'll put it between 1 and go right there. So that sets it there, and if I click over here, we should see it really ramp up. If I click down here, it ramps way down. So it's not changing. I mean, it kind of is. While we move the mouse, but then when we click somewhere else, it changes a lot more. I'm just playing around with stuff. There's a lot of different stuff we can do, and to be honest, I'm just kind of playing around with bits. I'm gonna take this part where we're resetting all this stuff, and I'm going to attach it to do where we export the canvas as well. And we'll make that another part of it. So we'll reset it whenever we export the canvas. And it doesn't like that somewhere. I honestly... You're not telling me what the error is. Like, where am I going outside of that? It doesn't tell me what the range is that I've goofed. It's a horrible, horrible error message. Yeah, I felt that. Okay, I see what's happening though. Because the mouse is way down here, past the boundary of the height of the canvas, it's now going into a positive or a value of over 1 because we mapped the whole canvas range to be between 0 and 1. So that's what's happening there. So let's go to the map when we're mapping that. Actually, is there a way to... Let's look at the map function. Yeah, we can map it within bounds with an additional 1 attached to that. And that will make it so it doesn't go past that. So let's just 1. Anywhere there's a map that we're playing with. 1. all of this super exciting bit of code right there. What this should do is now if I click down here, it will stop at 1 and not go past it. Still getting an error. And of course it's not going to... Oh, no, it did tell me there. Line 136. So what? No value. No value? I could have sworn we had to type value. Cool. Well, anyways, I feel like at this point I'm just kind of rambling and trying different things, and that's really a lot of what you all should do with your stuff. This program here doesn't have a lot of states to work with, and that's something we're going to be doing in the next sketch. So the next program that I'm putting together on the channel and in my classrooms will be more of an actual game. I gotta fine tune the details about it, but just by the nature of that, then we're gonna have multiple states happening. Now, theoretically, in this instance, we could have a different thing happen for each button we want to click, each sprite here, and that's totally fine. I'm not going to go into that because that's just a lot of repetitive stuff, and we've already been doing a lot of repetitive things right now. But you could have all of that happen. In the game, we're going to have different states for, okay, are you winning? Are you losing? How long has the game been going for? Things being collected versus not. Maybe player health, if that's going to be part of a thing. I don't know, but there's a lot more moving parts in a game. And because of that, we can control a lot more of what these effects do. So maybe when the player health gets low, I'm just pulling things out of my mind. Maybe the reverb gets really, really tight, like you're in a confined space. Maybe a filter comes in and removes all the higher frequencies, so it starts kind of like this. Something like that. I'm just pulling things out of random. Maybe when you collect more than 3 things, the music changes. Maybe when the time is getting low, it speeds up, or some kind of delay effect. I don't know. The possibilities are endless, but we can have these values change gradually over time. And just from a practical, like sound designing standpoint, it's a lot more useful to ramp values when you can rather than just set them. The reason for that is because we're working with sound. The way a speaker works is that it's going to be pushing air back and forth. I'm not gonna go into a whole thing on that, but I've got a diagram of a speaker somewhere in here that I like to use for this. There we are. So again, basically the speaker is taking this cone and pushing the air. And if it's just goes from nothing to all of a sudden a different value, jumping really fast, then it's going to sound like that when we play the sound back, and that comes out as clicks and pops and other noises that you generally don't want. So by ramping to it, it's again a much more linear, or I should say smoother, not necessarily linear, but a much smoother ramping of values, so we avoid those clicks and pops. And even just having a ramp 2 of very little, like a third of a second, tenth of a second, just a little bit can help avoid things. So if you're noticing a bunch of clicks and pops in your sounds that you don't really want, that's one thing you can do there, is instead of just setting a value automatically, you can ramp to it over time. And I think to end this, we will do a ramp value for the last little bit of stuff. So let's say we have sounds coming from the multiplayer and from the background music. So let's say when we export the final thing, that's when we're effectively done playing with this. So we've already got a little bit. Where's export canvas? There's export canvas right here. So we've already, we're resetting some values, but let's just turn them all off after that. So background music, not there. And what did I call the other one? Background music. and multiplayer. Dot volume dot value to dot ramp to, and this is going to be identical essentially. Let's have the sound effects ramp out first. So we'll ramp this to negative 100. That's a really low value, but I guess we can double check the synthesizer. I think I used FM synth, the volume parameter. Yeah, it's just in decibels, so we want it super low. Negative 100 is pretty much where they all max out in terms of lowness of the volume. And we'll have this ramp out over about, let's just say 2 seconds. Background music, I'm going to copy the same thing. And we're going to ramp to the same value. And then we will say, we'll ramp this down over 5 seconds, just so that part fades a little bit quicker. And I think there's another thing we can do. Scheduling, there's some examples. We can use some LFOs. There's a bunch of stuff we can do. I'm going to make a video dedicated just to this. The whole LFO thing, 'cause it's a lot of fun, but that's not really within the context of this little lesson right now. Value times schedule skip. Okay, I think that's where we're gonna end it. But there's a lot of these we can play with. I'm not gonna go through each of them in excruciating detail because they're all pretty straightforward. So I'll leave this on the screen for a second if you want to pause it and just kind of read what they do. Again, ways to talk about the time and all of that, all the things there, and then a few examples. So you can definitely check out a bunch of that. But at this point, this sketch, while it may not be the most intuitive thing, is effectively done. I'll bring that back. So it's functional by itself with no sound things. It's got the backing track, just soundtrack happening to it. This is a very simple soundtrack because there's really only one real state of the game. So there's not a whole lot to change with that, but we could change it. We've got sound effects that play, and we've got different ones for different contexts. So it's all context sensitive, which is very fun. And then we're just playing around with changing different values for the processing of those sounds. In like I say real games, but like big games made by developers running on stuff with a lot more powerful hardware and software than what we're using for this class. They'll do a lot of things, like maybe you move into an area and a specific track in the mix comes up. So, now that we're in the desert, the guitar comes out. I'm just pulling things randomly, or again, stuff like that, where when your health goes down, there's some kind of filter hit over the times, and just a bunch of different things that respond to the context of what's going on. The next game that we do will have a lot more contextual stuff, a lot more inputs, a lot more states and moving pieces. So we'll see a lot more of that interactive part. I just wanted to kind of introduce that, and then in a few weeks when those videos are all done and coming out, we'll play around with it a lot more. But at this point, effectively, the program is done for now. If you were going through this as a teacher, one thing you could do is potentially leave off this last part and then focus on that for a different game down the line that's more of a game. But to end it off, we'll just go through and just show the functionality of that last little part that we did. So we're playing. Notice we did not connect the background music to any of the effects. So it's only applying to the painting sound and the changing sound. Why didn't it like that? Do you not like value when we do ramp 2? Is this a new thing? I don't know. Okay, so I'm just going to say when we're using a lot of the ramp 2s, we may not need to include value, and that's a different thing from the last time I learned this and went over it. So, cool. But when I removed that and things started to work, when we clicked the export button, it ramped all the values down. Again, with the idea being you draw your stuff and save it. That's when the sounds would stop. So we don't have a way to bring that sound effect or really any of the volume back. We could add that up just by saying, "Hey, ramp up the volume back to what we clicked it on." I'm not going to do that in this video, but that's what we can do there. I think that's where I'm going to end it off today, because this has already been going for like 45 minutes. So much for a shorter video. Again, if you learned something, enjoyed it, definitely, like, comment, subscribe, all the stuff, as YouTube enjoys. This should be steel with an E. There we are. Why are we... No, I want to Control-Shift-F. I just want to tidy it up. Dang it. All right, so now that you're done seeing me fumble with stuff, we're going to end it there. All the resources in the description down below. Like, comment, subscribe, all the things. I'm rambling at this point, so I'm going to end it off. I'll see you all the next time that I see you. Bye.